A very good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the third masterclass of 2026, proudly brought to you by BEX Asia in partnership with our various BEX Asia exhibitors. My name is Suhaimi, and I will be your host today. Now, before we begin, allow me to tell you a little about BEX Asia and IBEW. BEX Asia, of course, is the largest built environment exhibition and the most trusted exhibition for the industry in Singapore with a solid focus on digitalization, innovation, and sustainability. Our 19th edition this year will take place from the 2nd to the 4th of September at the Marina Bay Sands Expo and Convention Center, and we are expecting over 300 exhibitors and more than 10,000 attendees. Registration is now open, so please do make sure that you register ahead so that you can skip the online queue, the on-site queues, as well as ensure that you get your complimentary badge access. BEX Asia, of course, runs alongside Southeast Asia's largest built environment conference, the International Built Environment Week, or as we call it, IBEW. It is jointly organized by the Building and Construction Authority of Singapore and RX Singapore. This year's theme of empowering people, accelerating intelligence will put the focus squarely on topics that are making its impact felt in the industry, namely artificial intelligence and its use cases in the built environment, preparing our talent for the future of AI transformation, and of course, on sustainability. Happening also on the 2nd to the 4th of September at Marina Bay Sands. Do make sure you follow our LinkedIn pages to stay updated as we reveal our lineup of impactful speakers in the end of May. And speaking of impactful speakers, I'm pleased to have Edmund Ng, founder and CEO of Doxa, who will be leading us through the masterclass today titled Simplifying Embodied Carbon Calculation Through Digital Procurement. Now, Edmund is a technopreneur who builds trusted ecosystems. He believes the best innovation does not add complexity. It solves real problems in ways that change how industries work, with more than 20 years across software, fintech, and supply chains. And he has founded and scaled startups, including one that reached a 20 million valuation in just 2 years. For Edmund, technology is never just about platforms or code. It is about unlocking trust, access, and opportunity for businesses of every size. His mission goes beyond growth. He is driven by a deep commitment to fair trade, financial inclusion, and using technology as a force for good and advancement. As a mentor at SMU and Tribe and an advisor to startups, he helps shape the next generation of founders to build with purpose and create impact that lasts. Today's, of course, our masterclass, Simplifying Embodied Carbon Calculation Through Digital Procurement, is about preparing embodied carbon reports that can be a complex and resource-intensive exercise for project teams. Supply chain data is often incomplete and difficult to verify across products, suppliers, and project stages. As a result, teams must pull together procurement, material, and project data from multiple systems and delivery touchpoints, making it harder to report and standardize your carbon reporting. In this session, we will explore how digital procurement helps solve this by creating a connected data foundation that improves visibility, supports more reliable embodied carbon calculation, and this strengthens a company's readiness for both green mark requirements and broader Scope 3 sustainability reporting. Now, with that, can I invite Edmund to come up on screen now? Hello, Edmund. How are you today?
Yes. Hi, Suami. Thanks for inviting me. Yes, very good today.
Right. It's a little chilly here in my office. It's raining around my area. Hope the weather's a lot better on your side.
Yeah, I think have a heavy rain earlier, and now it's much more better now. Yep.
All
Yep.
right.
After a rain. Yep.
Okay, so we're looking forward to this masterclass,
Mm,
Edmund. It seems like we have people who have signed in all the way, not just from Singapore, but
mm.
I see people here from Philippines, Indonesia,
Oh.
Malaysia, and some people from Thailand. So we're
Mm,
all excited about this. Now, ladies and gentlemen, before I hand the session over to Edmund, a few housekeeping announcements. This masterclass is scheduled for 1 hour, and we will be taking questions at the end of masterclass. And you can submit your questions at any time using the Q&A function found in Zoom, and it is found at the bottom of your screen. And with that, Edmund, if you could start sharing your slides, and then I'll hand it over to you.
Yep. Thanks, Sunami. Yep.
Okay.
Yes. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Edmund. It's really a good, great pleasure to be part of this so-called session together. We are looking at to look at how can we learn from the markets and also looking into how embodied carbon calculation can be easy. And definitely, we're happy to also run through fun questions and later on to hear everybody. We hope that this masterclass can be also a very interactive areas where questions been asked and also hope to address some of the areas where you have some concerns. I will start with the first kind of so-called title as simplifying embodied carbon calculations. We start with digital procurements. We understand that today actually embodied carbon calculations are scope 3. If I would like to run through a bit of how the whole journey between these ESG angles that to address a certain part of the group of people that are interested on that. So maybe I can, I hope the key takeaways that everyone online is that able to achieve that first who would like to understand on scope 3, especially because today if you look at ESG angle for scope 1 and 2, it's mainly your own consumption. It belongs to your own companies and stuff. But scope 3 is some things that actually what you buy from your suppliers. Yeah. So then to understand about what scope 3 encompasses with, then I also wanted to go through a bit on how does digital procurement platforms can be simplified. So on this angle, likelihood, we will use DOSA Connect as an example. How do we apply it? Hope that eventually can this be simplified? Then with the simplified outcome of the workflows, then I will also wanted to present a bit on the possible outcome out of these simplifying processes. I will also like to spend a bit of maybe 10 minutes times to show you a bit of the platforms. How does digital procurement work? Then lastly, I will go through a bit on the future procurements on AI. I mean, AI is something that everybody are talking about it, and definitely we don't want to reach the levels of AI fatigue on that kind of directions, but definitely we also still have to cover certain part of the AI part because this eventually part of our life, especially in the business processes on that. Yeah. So first, I think we start with calculations on the problems of embodied carbon, where actually there are UK calculations and all this that the global warming and all this that eventually we need to reach the net zero constructions to make sure that actually the market are moving towards by 2060 the angle. Then actually Singapore also embarking into the 2030 and 2050 calculation. But before that, you can look at what is embodied carbon. It's about the CO2, actually the emissions that actually during when you are in the material and constructions process, what has been used on the so-called materials that has how much carbon dioxide has been using. There's two parts to it is that your manufacturing of it, how the manufacturing of that materials, and also the transportations that the material has to transport. Then you have to use car. Then after that, you have to start to actually build. So there are areas that actually you can see that actually embodied carbon is expected to contribute almost half of the overall building related emissions. So what I mean by that is that you look at those when you start to look at building, especially we are in the construction space, right? Do you know that how much embodied carbon calculations or the CO2 emissions that happen in the construction of the whole building? If you look at this example as the developers or the main cons to the subcontractors, when materials being purchased, when equipment being used, diesel has been consumed, the total CO2 emissions that has been calculated in this whole building being constructed, what are the numbers? So actually, we don't have that real numbers that putting in. So that is something that we have to look into how further we can actually look at that. So then there is another articles that actually fall about 2 years ago where SGBC also started to look into. I believe that some of you guys may able to know aware that actually in fact that the Singapore Green Building Council actually came up with the so-called kind of forms of tables for you to actually calculate on that. So, and it did mention also that supply chain material system that go beyond or any built environment account for 30% of the building total emissions. So during this article, they also mentions about actually one of the use case where Kimberly, as the main cons, actually they are using DOSA Connects to start to tracks. And when they start to track processes in order to actually certify or classify green financing, all this, actually we may need certain part of digitalization or tools that are able to help to actually bring out informations to output those information so that you can submit for your own internal or external reporting. So that's the articles that actually 2 years ago where it's written. Yeah, so then what are the problems that we are trying to solve? You look at this, emission factors or calculation are some things that scope 3 especially, they are your supplies, which means if you don't buy things, you don't need to calculate. The problems come where you need to buy things and your suppliers are the one who consume the emission, because you are not the one actually to consume this emission, because when they manufacturing, they are the one who actually produce the product. They are the one who deliver to you, right? So then so when you start to look at procurements, then you look at calculations on that. So then how am I going to calculate? So the first problems that we see is that the manual and the time consuming, because to calculate, imagine today you buy materials from any suppliers, they deliver to you, and the material itself requires to calculate emission factors, right? So the emission factors itself have requirements of a certain part of informations that need to calculate. So example, you don't just like today I buy like any other items, they come with the the SKU items or your descriptions. It doesn't allow you to calculate the emission factors. You requires to have more data points. So end up you may have an issue of incomplete data. So when you have an issue of incomplete data, then how are you going to calculate? So then there's areas where you need to problems that need to solve, that the data are not incomplete to calculate, because you just want to buy things. It's not your jobs to do the calculation, but the market are trying to actually get everyone to actually do calculate on that scope 3. So then there's another areas we call the deviations of accuracies. What is that? Is that because today most of the suppliers or a lot of suppliers that are unable to give you a good emission factors, which mean the carbon, the CO2, right? Then how are we going to calculate? Then there are, in the market itself, there are many different way of calculation. Especially the most easiest is that they call it the spend base. Later, I talk a bit on the spend base itself. That example, how much you buy. Example, you buy water bottles or you buy any items like masking tape or whatever, those things that you buy or materials itself. If today the suppliers are unable to give you a calculation, then you just, based on that kind of product name, I just give a factor. So you spend how much, then it give you a variance. But this deviation will cause a lot of inaccuracy. Then end up your estimations is quite tough. Then the third areas where what we see, there will be a high cost and resources, because you need a lot of manpowers, you need resources to calculate. So the resources to calculate requires to have a few areas to do it. First is that you need to know how the methodology of calculation. So then imagine that you have supplies of your purchase order or your delivery orders coming in, but this information not allows you to calculate your emission factors. So you have to work with some partners to calculate this. But the partners, when they started to calculate this, they require you to provide certain forms of data, whether like your origin of the countries, where's the kind of materials type and all this, before even those calculations can take place. So it requires to resources to actually from standard data to output certain data that are able to calculate. So this will also incur multiple resources needed. So in order for us to look at the problem statements that in the market we see, this will allow us to go into a few kind of use cases. So the first use case is that the manual we want to look at how can we actually perform digitalizations, because on digitalization part it is some things that we will like to believe that actually the platforms or the solution provider will help you to actually automate certain processes, especially now in our AI periods, or things will be getting much more efficient. Then we need to improve our modeling. So modeling, what we call is become a activity based instead of spend based. So what we are looking at is that the model have the frameworks to go through a full life cycle calculations. Then these life cycle calculations then were able to actually look at how very clear that your process is how, which means your initial how you want to manufacturing until you deliver the goods to the to your sites itself. You are able to actually make the declarations of that. That is what we call the life cycle processes on that. So with the life cycle, then you were able to accurately calculate the emission factors. Then from there, then with the information that first we look at the data points, the system must be able to allow to give you data that able to calculate. At the same time, the data calculations that put it in the right methodology to calculate will help. Then this will automatically calculate the output that you need without too much manpower resources that apply. So that is how we see in the kind of problem statements, and also how are we going to actually solve it. Yeah. So a bit deeper on how we look at for your scope 3, right? So especially that in a whole life cycles approach, you can see these tables that talk about the product and the construction phase. So on the construction, on products and construction, these are the what you call the A1s to A5s, right? The cradle to sites or to the completions itself are the most difficult calculation, because it's involved a lot on external parties. But if you look at the B1s to B5, right? So these are more very clear cut on that, is because it's our maintenance, how much electricity and how much diesel has been used, and usually in that phase itself, you may already have kind of areas where you can actually start, because these are the operational carbon calculation. So today we are trying to look at what we call the A1s to A5s on the areas. Yeah. So I spent a bit on how the difference between a spend-based versus a life cycle approach, where we call it activity-based. So spend-based usually they use as so-called estimations today, because example, whatever you buy, how much you buy, then after that they will just use the factors to calculate, because the system have to generalize it to make sure that actually based on how much you buy, then they calculate. So this resulting more than 100% deviations. Where activity-based that you can look at is they will help to actually go through the life cycle approach, where today, your raw material sourcing, transports and manufacturing, the process of it. Then after that, the product and construction. Then after that, what are the areas where you look at? Then after that, from there, you can actually go into the life cycle. And this will eventually help to actually reduce the deviations, where system can actually go up to -3%, ±3% deviation. So this will really help you to actually look at eventually your offsetting carbon credits. But for carbon credits or offsetting, I will not cover as today's sessions. Today, I will only cover about embodied carbon calculations, how to calculate first. So today, we need to achieve that. How does calculation can be simplified? Yeah. So then, as mentioned, we are only focused on the A1 to A5. So how does A1 to A5 look at? Because you can see that based on the materials and the construction, so the system we are looking at, so how to actually look at different data, the upstream data, which means what are the so-called data that actually manufacturing, all those materials that internally. Then after that, we also look at those primary data at the transportation areas. So with all these informations, then we were able to actually use the data point, because today, these are all the materials or purchasing that you need to do. So later I can explain a bit more further how does this calculation will work. Yeah. Yeah. So then today, so the next stage, right, how DOSA do it in the angles where for built for procurements. So we hope to achieve as a all-in-one platform that actually manage your whole entire workflows. Earlier, I did mention that today, scope 3 calculation, if you don't buy things, you don't calculate. But if you buy things, how are you going to calculate? Then end up, you may actually involve in a lot of resources on that. So we want to actually automate the process through the platforms itself. Yeah. So with that, DOSA Connects are platforms that actually connects from, for example, today you are a project owners, you are company A, you send the jobs to the main con. So the main contractors actually receive your multiple work orders, your so-called contracting works, or your supplies, or the suppliers itself, or the main cons itself will be the one that receive, right? Then the main cons actually start to actually suck a lot of work to different subcontractors. At the same time, they will also start to send a lot of purchase orders to many of the suppliers. So this whole ecosystem will come into what we call the whole platforms in DOSA Connects. So DOSA Connects is a platform that connects the workflows for procurements in the system, so that you are able to bring in your ecosystem to the platforms itself. So then with the verification of the data and the audit trails, then we can actually use the data of what has been required. Later, I will share a bit of the example how we see this automated process work. Then we can look into those like your payments and financing, and especially the green financing or those financing that actually supported by the market. Yeah. So based on the process of, maybe I can give a very high level process of how today we see how a company do procurements, and also how from the start itself until the calculations. So there are various tags that are quite sequential. So example, today you requires to, you have a group of suppliers. Your suppliers requires, you need to have a suppliers evaluations processes. We see a number of use cases that, especially those large company, main contractors itself, they requires to do a evaluation. Usually they call it the pre-onboarding evaluations. And then they have to start to go into your yearly assessment. So then the process of it, you requires informations that coming in through the system. Then after that, once you evaluate your suppliers and your yearly assessment, then you require to have some so-called data. Then eventually will go into your approved vendor list, because then you have shortlisted this group of suppliers, part of your vendor list. Then your yearly assessment will give you some data that coming in, so that they will continue to be part of the ecosystem or your vendor list. Then after that, you start to actually go through the usual purchasing fulfillments. So during the purchasing fulfillments, you have already know what are the items you need to buy. Then you may want to ask for a quote, with a 3 code, 4 codes based on your approved vendor list. Or you may also source for new suppliers, for vendor list, new suppliers. Then from there, you start to go through the workflows. Then you can actually start to process the payments itself. With the payments, then you can go through the payments through the banks and whatnot. Then eventually you may need to go into the carbon calculation, because you need to report what has been used, what are the emission factors that out of the whole entire procurements that you have done. Then you can actually start to look at the reports. So the way I see is that embodied carbon is linked to digital procurement, because it's always about how things today you buy. Because if you buy, you have to calculate. Yeah. So with these flows, I would like to share how we DOSA address to it. Yeah. So I go through a very high level segments over here. Let me actually zoom in about. So DOSA connects platforms that what we name actually the whole entire ecosystem. We call it DOSA Fabric. We have a patent that especially on this process on it. So DOSA Fabric is about, to example, a company buy from 2 suppliers based on this example. Then these 2 suppliers actually also buy from his own suppliers. So you can see that the whole entire ecosystem actually reside in DOSA Fabrics. So companies are in the system so we're able to chain up from different buyers to sellers, so that the whole entire cycles or the procurements of it will be able to actually calculate it. So with that, imagine that multiple suppliers are in DOSA Connects. Then, okay, example, you are the companies that you want to onboard these suppliers, right? So then, first you need to go through certain evaluations. So this evaluation that you look at the system will able to provide you with information. Later I can touch a bit on how we see even AI can help to look at evaluations on that. So you may requires to bring information out of it. There are many informations that you can look at the market. There are multiple information, but is there a way that can the platform consolidated all this information so that you can easily, quicker, and simply actually decide what are the next steps? So the platforms will allow you to actually pull. So we are partner with ESG registry. So we're able to pull the data from ESGpedia. Then after that, these are all those are informations that you may require, whether your LCA or your EPD certs and stuff. Then imagine that the information will start to go through your onboarding process, because it's automated, right? You can pull all this information. Then after that, you will start to assess it. Then you start to approve. Then you go into your approved vendor list. So this approved vendor list will go through. Then after that, what we do is that we also pull the master catalog for the so-called the vendors itself. So then you have an approved vendor list in the system. Then you start to perform your procurement flows, because most of the time you requires to so-called buy things, and after that you go through. Then you can start to pull your vendor list. Then the information will help you to actually decide which are the suppliers you want to buy. Then you start to handle your fulfillments of your purchase order, your the reorders and invoices. Then upon receiving of the goods through the system processes, then actually you can actually calculate the carbon footprint. So with these informations that in line, so this is what we see the flows of how workflow is. So a bit deeper on how the flows that today you create on new suppliers, then we can pull the information. Then after that, we start to look at the process of evaluations. Then after that, you may need to do some clarifications. The system must be able to help you to clarify processes and all these things. Because if not, you go to email, WhatsApp informations, then you may actually, data may be loose because you've forgotten about certain part of the information. So the platforms allows you to actually do some clarification. Then after that, you start to approve and part of the vendor list. Then you can actually perform your yearly so-called periodic assessment. So you allows you to actually do a different type of so-called assessment. So you can I go a bit deeper on how you can actually work on. Imagine that there are two main data that we see. Some of the case studies that we work with some of the large main contractors, right? So first is your company informations. So the company information is those are ISO certs or your ACRA or your business registration informations or other very high level company informations that need to be submitted. So these are all the company levels information. Then after that, automatically the system will able to pull the data from ESG registries information to pull it in. So you have a company informations and you have the green or the ESG information for the company. So then what we are trying to look at is with these two data, can the agents or the AIs able to help you to evaluate? So you will have a board to actually ask questions. So we will pull and we will crawl the data from the World Wide Web and present it to it. For example, is that can I check these suppliers have more? Is it through the ACRA is equal to the business registration and all these things? And is there any insolvency issues and all these things? Whatever. Actually, the system can actually you can actually get the so-called the board to actually help you to search and run through it together rather than you run through, or you can have a presets of evaluations informations that we can actually model it. What is the questionnaires that push it in? Actually, you can ask. So that is the areas where you can see that AI can actually even improve on that. So in order to do this, then we will likely go through a very high level. Most of the time, a company will go through the workflow. So this workflow, like example, today you want to buy things from the suppliers, you will ask for quote. After the quote itself, you need to shortlist the suppliers, which are the suppliers you put it in. Then after that, you will start to create the purchase order and get the POs to the suppliers. Then you start to receive the goods through the delivery orders processes of this. Then after that, most of the company, you need to get the invoice from the suppliers. Then after that, the companies requires to match the PO invoice and all this information. So what we do is that we have the whole entire process auto workflows in Doxa Connects, and we link to the banks because we have so-called the arrangement with the banks that you can actually directly make payments through the platforms. We are the one connected to the bank back end. At the same time, we also connect to your own accounting system. We realize that a lot of company or most of the company have their own internal accounting or ERP system. So we also push data over to the accounting or ERP system. At the same time, we also pull data from our partners like ESGpedia to actually allows you to actually look at your carbon calculations. Yeah. So this what we see. These workflows will be embedded in your company digital procurements that eventually achieve the embodied carbon calculation. Yeah. So in the end-to-end areas, so what I see is that we are leading towards procurement-led carbon. What I mean by that? Because today you have to start to source. Because you look at the time, like by then 2030, you may need to report, and how are you going to source for it? So first, you will look at your suppliers, that whether they provides information enough that able to give you that carbon calculation. So that is the sourcing part on that. Then from there, you start with your procurement flow. So your procurements, you need to decide what are the factors. Last time, you may actually requires to just look at the pricing and model or the performance. Now, there are another factors that you may need to decide on, the emission factors. So then, during the decision processes, then from there, when you receive the goods itself, the system can easily auto-calculate and give you the output of that particular carbon, eventually will give you an end state of the reports. So that is some things that we look at. Yeah. So the reports itself will definitely allows you to cover your earlier we talked about your A1s to A5s, where you can see that actually your capital goods, your transportations information. Then after that, it will also even break down to individual suppliers or what are the emission factors. Thereafter, it will able to give you the footprints information and your path to net zero. So that is what we are moving aligned towards the global or even our so-called national-wide so-called 2030 directions. Yep. So with that, before I go into the demo, we look at if we allows to go lower cost to make sure that the cost of using the platforms and the data must be reliable. So why is it reliable? Because it starts from your digital procurement, which means we help you to start the data point from your procurement. Once your procurement is done, the data is so originated, has been created in the platforms, then the output will give you a lot of better decisions because all these data points already been actually addressed in Dosa Connects. So that's the areas where you can see that we run through it end to end from the start to the end. I will go through a very quick 5-10 minutes demo to let you everyone look at a bit of feel of the platforms, how procurement work in Dosa Connects. Then I will come back to do a conclusion for questions. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So now this is you can see that actually the platforms are ecosystem platforms that help to actually bring in. So if you look at the platforms, green color represent that you are a buyer. So this company called J Buyer 2 Private Limited, which means it's a company called J Buyer 2 Private Limited. If I switch over as a suppliers now, so which means this company are still the same company, but it's a supplier's role, which means this company are receiving orders from your buyer. If I switch over as a buyer itself, then the role have been switches over. So which means I want to buy something from my group of suppliers. And these platforms are multi-entities platforms. We realize that a lot of construction companies have multiple different subsidiaries. So this will help you to go through the so-called different subsidiaries. And it is a multi-role task-based platforms that, example, this guy named J Buyer 2 is the super admin, which means you can actually assign different roles, responsibility to an individual. So everybody have a user account and the user rights will be actually configured according to your roles itself. So if you look at that, then you start off with today, I want to buy something. So I ask for a code. So the code itself can actually trigger through different so-called suppliers. So the system allows you to actually start to look at how today you send to different suppliers. Then the suppliers were able to respond. There will be a comparison table that help you to look at which are the so-called suppliers that you may want to so-called shortlist. You can actually even split your approval. Like example, your suppliers have 100 tons, you want to split them 70-30, it's up to you to do. And the platform allows you to actually negotiate. You can also put some remarks and all these things together and say some negotiations that requires to corresponding with the suppliers. And this is also within your own, you and your suppliers connection. And this eventually will able for you to actually pull out future auditors information. Then you can look at another areas where today you requires to buy things, right? As mentioned, so you can go into your supplier catalogs. So the suppliers catalogs allows you to search for items that you want to buy, and also those items that if there's some pictures you can allows you to do that, and you will also pull out your price history informations that allows you to actually decide. So this information allows you to actually even so-called decide which are the suppliers to award. And the platforms allows you to even, it also allows you to suggest that which are the suppliers, that which are the price, or which are the most possible suppliers that you want to purchase. And what you look at for this round is that imagine that you have that emission factors calculation inside that particular device. Then the platforms will even output what is the CO2 emission factors inside for this product so that you can decide. So which means it allows you to actually even give you some better decisions that you may want to actually achieve this, right? Then after that, then we allows the informations, then you can start to actually send the purchase order or even contracts to the particular suppliers. So once you send over so-called those your so-called your POs, then you have to start to receive the goods, right? So when receiving your goods itself, the platforms allows you to will start to trace back whether what you have been ordered and also those informations that you have past received. So it allows you to receive the goods through whether is it through PO or through DO or through your mobile apps and all these things. So it allows you to do that. Then another areas that I would like to point out to you is that it will help you to even go into further areas where your historical data, your audit trails informations are very important. So audit trails informations that I see that needed are quite critical. So imagine that today you want to find information through the system and all this. So first, the system allows to actually pull out information so that first you can see that red color represent that there are some issues with these invoices. So what are the issues? You were able to point out that today there are a discrepancy. Instead of you have to bill me with lesser or more, actually the system allows you to point out whether the item or the pricing itself. So there's another areas that you can see that is that the overview of the whole entire chain of informations that actually, example for particulars, so-called PO to DO to good receive information. These are all the audit trail or overview of the whole historical data. The platform allows to pull out so that you can actually trace it. So the traceability will help you to actually go through it. Then after that, once the invoice is done, then you can look at the payment parts. This will be the last part before I go back to the slides. So the payments part, you can see that most of the time, a lot of companies, when they handle payments itself, may need to go through manually process. So we allow us to go through Doxa Connects. You can actually batch it out for your own internal approval. Then you can actually start to trigger payments through the platforms. So you can leverage on our platform features like this, what you call the integrated bank transfer. So when you choose this integrated bank transfer, if you have the bank account, like example DBS, I can go inside and whether PayNow or TT or MAP Gyro, so the system can actually start to trigger and connect to your backend and actually handle the payments. So once the payments is done, the banks will respond back the information to us. Over here, the bank reply. Then from there, actually, then you will write to your own accounting system digitally without any human interventions. And this platform also allows you to actually trigger financing through our platforms. So these are the process of it and end to end. So I will go back to the slides on how the next step. Yeah. So with that, I another 5 minutes to close off this. So what will be the future of procurements? You can look at AI. AI will be there for everyone, for us to use. So, well, you look at current procurements, there are multiple data has been overloaded. Procurement teams, managerials, informations are with tons of data, but how can you actually get the data be meaningful to use it? The second part is about the decision-making cycle. We have stacks informations that realize that actually decision-making take times and actually is there ways that actually speed up decision-making. Another areas where we look at is the risk, procurement risk, whether is it the over risk of purchasing or there are fraud detections happens and all this. So our AI team have concluded that there are these three main problem statements that in the procurement areas that we look at. So with that, definitely happy to run some use case. Anyone that would like to later on for us to engage a further workshops or things, we are more than happy to run use cases together. So we look at this is that there are three main areas that we will want to focus. The first is the AI generated reports, because every different manager or management may want to have different data. Then end up every time when you go to the users, is like, hey, can I have this data information? Then end up actually you have to go and harness the data and provide the information to the manager. So today there is a concierge. We call it the concierge, that you go to a hotel, the front desk, you ask for things, then they will tell you, okay, you can do whatever. What are the information? So these AI agents will be there for you. It's like concierge that you went in over. You ask for questions, reports, informations on the system. They will give you those information and generate whatever type of documents or this information for you. Then the second part will be what we call the AI assistants. Someone that like your helper, he will help you to actually perform tasks. Example, today, how much invoices you need to approve, why am I need to approve processes and all these things. You don't have to go into the application now. So it's AI-driven applications now that there's a bot that help you to actually execute tasks. So before you execute, you will ask questions that why all these things, then it will give you the information and all these things. Then from there, actually, you can just say, okay, I'm going to approve this particular documents. Then the system will actually trigger the back end to actually approve it based on your decision making. And the third one imagines that what I call the AI data crawler. Imagine that there are someone that always monitoring and always alerting some things for you. So which means there are agents behind it to look at, to say, hey, there are some information that you need to take a look on, or there are fraud been detected, or all these, or some data that actually have some telltale sign, all these things. So imagine someone that has been helping you to trigger, so that actually, in fact, you were able to have a better decision on that. So with that use case itself, example, your top spend category or certain areas, then you were able to give you some vendor alerts. There will be also the assistant that today there's a POs that are, how many POs that I need to approve. These are the POs informations. Please approve all these things. And then you trigger approve. You don't need to go and learn about the system. Go and click the few steps to do it. This AI can actually help you to actually execute it upon your decision making, as the crawler itself able to detect certain records that they scan through. There are some alerts, they flag out some issues and all these things. There are some expiries, contracts, informations, or duplicated informations that actually happen. So with that, to build a platforms with AI-driven, Doxa Connects already have the platforms that actually overarching the whole so-called procurement flows. The cost, why are this important in the platform? Because today, that a buzzword or a word where AI that we want to avoid is called these hallucinations. Data hallucinations, or the data that actually output, is because there are too much unstructured data. So it requires the platforms to help to make sure that actually data has been structured. So we already have the platforms on that. Then from there, actually all our structured data. Then from there, you will straight away receive a lot of instant values. And also the AIs were able to be part of the human in the loops to able to provide you those informations. It's already actually we're able to build agents to understand the native of it, because the workflow is already in the platform in day one, and it's fully integrated because it's embedded in the database itself. So with that, yeah, this is my last slide on my presentation. Happy to address to a few questions or all this, and we also anyone who like to scan through, we were more than happy to do a proper workshop, mini workshops, or to run through together with anyone else and provide no obligations, so-called catch up. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Edmund, for that in-depth look at carbon accounting and how you can do it through procurement. So Edmund, we have quite a fair bit of questions. People who have submitted, there's over a dozen questions from registration, as well as some questions from a live audience. Ladies and gentlemen, if you have questions, you can drop them in the Q&A function here. Uh, so we have today quite a fair bit, quite a range of attendees from developers as well as QS, main contractors, as well as facility managers even, and solution suppliers. So one of these questions I have also from registration was, who are the kind of customers who are seeking this embodied carbon scope 3 data? Is it the developer? Is it the main con? And is this a regulatory or voluntary requirement?
Yep. Thanks, Swami. Yep, this great questions. Is a bit voluntary, but there are some requirements now in especially the government side. First, there are two set of kind of customers that require is that the positioning of the company mainly are those very large MNC company, global companies that are getting government's projects. They wanted to be part of that because they know that actually calculation requires. So they provide these calculations so that actually it supports the government initiative. There are also areas where government contracts are getting more and more so-called, they require us to provide certain levels of EPD submissions or those sustainability reports information on that. So there are two main areas that we are looking at. Yeah.
All right. So next question, we actually have this question from one of our attendees from PT Shell in Indonesia. If they were taking the suppliers was actually from a distributor, uh, how do they get actually the emission factor? Is it from the supplier of that distributor, the product, or is the distributor supposed to put it up themselves? I guess this also aligns with a lot of the questions that we've received is how do you calculate embodied carbon? Do the material providers themselves submit onto Doxa Connects, or you pull off from their EPD?
Yeah. So carbon calculation regulations and methodology are fairly standards because it floated through EU taxonomy, later go into the Asia taxonomy, and the emission factors updates will be actually if let's say some changes on their manufacturing, and the updates can be monthly, and the areas where you can look at those calculations mainly are the manufacturers. So manufacturing itself usually not came from the distributor, but from the suppliers. What they call is the LCA processes, life cycle assessment processes. So we are partner with ESGpedia that they are able to help the company to make declarations. First is that first we need to look at the supplies itself, whether is there EPD, environmental product declarations, which means does that suppliers have this EPD in place and has been certified, because you require us to get certified by a third party to make sure that actually your calculation are legit. So then the distributor usually will know that actually this particular so-called suppliers have made that declaration, because ESGpedia's pull global data through the markets to make sure that actually they have EPD. If let's say there are require so-called EPD submission or LCA minimally from your client. As a distributor, your client require that. Then we can actually work with you to connect to actually run the LCA supports. Then eventually help the suppliers to actually reach the EPD stage eventually. Yeah.
I see. So, and that of course means that you're continuously updating the reports, right? Because
Yes.
today, if I'm doing, for example, I'm supplying you with steel, and today I'm using blast furnaces, and in another year I roll out something using electric arc furnaces. My carbon emissions per ton is just going to drop. So, how
Yeah.
often do you redo this emission factor updating?
Usually, so we will pull from the database by daily to pull the informations. ESGpedia, based on that, usually they will look at monthly basis to actually update informations. And most of the time, the calculation don't change the methodology of it don't change in years lah. So the calculation were done. And we also look at that you don't have to go into the market to oversubscribe different calculations, tools, and all this. So then what DOSA angle is that we consolidated the best practices calculation so that you can just use the platforms, and especially those steel and concrete, the green cements and green steel and all this. Actually, these are all very so-called matured, so-called, and it also emphasis a lot in the construction building. The higher percentage of material are the steels and the concrete. So then actually today we partners with ESGpedia. We have the data that they have collated. Then what you do is that we consolidated everything in one space so that you buy things from this particular supplies or this. Then after that, we are also working with them to bring in a master catalog. So what I mean by the master catalog is that today these are all the steel or concrete suppliers. Then if they are in the ecosystem of ESGpedia, the master catalog will pull, then you can actually go and buy those green steel or cements or the emission factors already calculated inside the catalog so that you can able to get the real updates and those informations that you need to. Yeah.
All right. Okay, we have about 3 more minutes, so I'll
Yep.
take 2 more questions, ladies and
Sure.
gentlemen. So one of the questions that's come from the live audience here is how extensive is the current level of database on the platforms? Can you say I have 10 million SKUs on, is there a number that you can put to it?
This is a tough question. Yeah. We don't. I mean, to be honest, the green or EPD part are moving fast, but not the faster expected time frame that we expected. But majority of the steel and the cement are inside because these are all very critical components on that. And if today those suppliers don't requires to do that, we can help them to actually onboard with you. And especially in Singapore, there are so-called government supports for these suppliers. So they can leverage on there's some pre-approved grants that's to support the suppliers to get themselves LCA or EPD approved on that. So we still I apologize that I can't give you the numbers, but is majority of the steels and the cements are there, and those
So
are
maybe, Edmund, if it's not numbers, then of course buildings will use cement, structural steel, your rebar
yes,
steel, you have that. But what about other stuff like so my facade, say
paint,
my window
paint,
panes,
yeah,
are
paint,
they also categories?
aluminiums, those,
Paints, yes, paints is one
yes,
of them.
yes, paint, aluminiums, those kind of those very large supplies are there because
Right.
that is their most of the so-called those potential, because they know that actually those are big suppliers. They, if they are not made the declaration, there will be loss of certain market shares
Market
and
share.
all this.
Right.
So it's a business decision on that. Yeah.
Okay. My last question, and then perhaps a very quick one on this. Can this tool also be used and integrated into collaborative contracting for projects, particularly in Singapore, given that the government is putting a huge focus on collaborative contracting for government projects?
Wow, this simple question, but yet take some times on that. Yeah, I mean collaborative contractings are, there's a few angles, because we talk about DOSA Connects as DOSA Fabric. It's about ecosystem from a government projects to the main con to subcons and go downstream. So based on that, we are very much towards working with BCA very closely together with the governments. So what we do is that even the upcoming, we do have like NEC4, option C, collaborative contracting target cost processes that we're going to in place. You will hear some announcement coming up soon. And we also running some masterclass soon, also on NEC4. So there are areas where we will be part of that collaborative contracting models that we have. And recently, we also have a lighthouse projects that this main con Limbing constructions that have case studies that IDD for contracting models that written in BCA website. I think it's very easy to search Limbing Lentor Modern as a lighthouse in BCA to run through the collaborative contracting areas where. So yes, we are in and we are also looking at NEC4 and to support the national-wide initiative. And with that collaborative contracting model that in place, this will eventually even help to look at embodied carbon calculations because data is in the platforms. Supply chain financing supports the downstream. And recently, we also have another initiative with JTC that to chain up developers, project owners like JTC to the main cons, the subcons, and the subsubcons. So this whole entire so-called requirements have been written in the tender specs that the main cons, when they bid for the projects, they know that actually these are the requirements that requires to do that. So we are the appointed platforms for that particular pilots that we have done together with the government side. Yeah.
All right.
Thanks.
And ladies and gentlemen, I'm afraid that's all the time we have today. Of course, if there's any questions that have not been addressed, Edmund's contact details are on screen. So please feel free to drop him a note. And Edmund, once again, thank you very much for sharing with us what we can do with an integrated procurement system. Perhaps one day every building that has been built there's not just a price tag to it, but there's also a believable carbon tag that has been placed on it. This building was built with X number of carbon emissions for that X number of tons. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for your time today, and I hope you walked away with very valuable information about sustainability reporting from this masterclass. Our next masterclass will be on the 21st of May with Singapore Polytechnic, and it's titled Building Smart, Building Greener, Digital and Sustainable Solutions for the Built Environment, where we'll explore Cornet X as well as new building materials. So don't forget to look out for the information in your inboxes or follow our social media. And that's it from me. So, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Suhaimi, and I'll see you at BEX Asia this year in September. Thank you very much.